Hello everyone and welcome to the Gunpla Network. I'm the Spicer and today we're continuing our series of redesigning the suits from Gundam Seed Freedom. Now, our first episode covered all of the suits. This is the first that will actually be deep diving on an individual. But first, a word from our sponsors over Canadian Gundam. Because maybe you don't like these new seed designs and you want something classic, maybe original recipe freedom. Well, they're going to have you covered. They've got all your Gunpla and plamo needs covered here in North America. If you're in the US or Canada, they've got flat rate shipping to you, they've got a private warehouse option, and they've got a vast catalog they restock regularly. So when you're checking that vast catalog for Freedom or maybe some older seed kits, don't forget to use the promo code Gunpla Network to save yourself 10% off. So of course we have to start here with the Rising Freedom, and I think this is probably the most divisive design of any of them. Everyone else that I've seen either in comments or on Twitter or YouTube or wherever generally kind of think the rest were pretty okay. This one's probably the worst offender though. And in that first video I talked about getting rid of the fins on the shoulders because I think they're just entirely too big and kind of bad looking. Maybe getting rid of the gauntlets because they're kind of a little pointless when you have the big shield. And these are beam shield emitters too, so And the rest of it was fine. Like, the proportions obviously are going to change, and I've got some representations from the model kit to kind of show that. But generally the only thing outside of that was the transformation and the color scheme. So, in terms of what I've actually done here, as you see, not a ton of change. And I haven't changed the colors yet. You'll see that in a minute. But I got rid of the shoulder bits. I think that looks much better in my opinion. I think it doesn't make it look as awkwardly long or wide up here. I added some color to the head because that was missing down here on the jewel and little faceplate. I got rid of one gauntlet just to see what it would look like, and I think I actually like this quite a bit more. That was kind of a rush job, but still. I left this one just because there's a lot of stuff going on behind it. I'm like, I'm not going to mess with that. But that gives us kind of an idea of, I think, especially if this is going to get upgraded in the movie to something else, having these is a little pointless. Because that's one easy upgrade you could absolutely do that they did in Gundam Seed Destiny. And I colored the vents down here in the legs to add a little bit of splash to the leg. But that's pretty much it. That's all I've done. And I think it is, while subtle, a pretty solid improvement. I think the waist cannons, the beam sabers, the little thrusters here on the torso itself for the most part, I think everything is fine. I think it just needed a little bit to kind of get over that. Now I will say, if we're keeping the Freedom wings, and this is keeping the Freedom name, you're keeping a lot of the aesthetic from the Freedom from a design standpoint. Both IRL, real life, and in the cosmic era, it makes very little sense to not really lean into that aesthetic, because the Freedom and the Strike Freedom are very similar from a color palette standpoint. Their color scheme is near identical, outside of the gold, of course. And it's just weird that you don't carry that over here. So I went through a couple of different color changes here and there that we'll look at in a minute, but I think for just little touches of color, if you're keeping this, you just need it on the head and the legs, and I think that looks fine. I think this is actually pretty solid design in my opinion. Now, I hate the transformation. I loathe it. I think it is stupid and a waste of time. But if you're keeping it, there are a couple of changes I would make as well. Now, one I wasn't necessarily able to facilitate in my limited editing skills here. But one, I would get rid of the shield. I hate this shield. I think the shield for this and the Immortal Justice are absolutely the worst parts about them aside from these dumb transformations. So get rid of that, move the beam rifle on top. There's already a peg up here that I assume this big nose cone pegs into. And have the shoulders tilt back. I think they look really dumb just sticking out here. And I think it's kind of counterintuitive if you've got this either fast moving Strider, Wave Driver mode, whatever, to just have them out there. It doesn't, from a design standpoint, it looks goofy. Or like if you angled them forward is kind of like a forward angled wing, that would be kind of cool, maybe, but they just stay there. Like I said, this transformation is really lazy. I don't know why they did this. But yeah, have the transfer, or have the shoulder kind of fall back here, and you can kind of see, I did it a little bit here, not super well, obviously, but have that kind of fold down, move the gun to the top, get rid of the shield, and ideally what I would like to see is either some kind of gimmick to get the waist skirt guns forward facing or the wing guns forward facing. That's possibly something you could probably do. Excuse me. And we'll probably see people once this comes out actually mess with that. But yeah, if you're keeping the transformation, as much as I loathe it, move the gun to the top, get rid of the shield, have the shoulders fall down, to where at least you have a little bit more of a streamlined, thing for the body. And I'd even probably try to move this like little front cockpit hatch thing somehow. So it's going to stick down really far, which is probably why they added the gun and the shield. But honestly, I would get rid of the transformation. I'd get rid of this dumb cone thing. I'd probably actually I kind of like these back wings, honestly. I'd probably try to incorporate them somehow into the larger Freedom Wing set somehow. Maybe getting rid of like one of these smaller wings. Or like maybe incorporate the thruster into where the cannon is supposed to be and put the cannon on the back. I don't know, that's just kind of my ideas. Let me know in the comments below if that's a little wild or if you also hate this transformation, because it's dumb and lazy. So now that we have our redesign here, I wanted to go through and try a couple of different color schemes, because that's the other biggest complaint. Other than the design's not great, the color scheme is also weird, right? It doesn't follow the Freedom conventions, it doesn't follow the Strike conventions, it doesn't follow anything we've seen. Now, if we're going to start, I'm going to start with the Strike. And this is of the model kit, and I tried to wash out all the colors so everything would be kind of basically starting from scratch. And this is the Strike design. So we've got the red here and the black here on the backpack, kind of simulating the Ale Striker wings. You have the gray here on the little collar doohickey that goes down into the waist. Same deal you would have with the Strike. You have that gray down here on the knees and on the shoulders as well. You have the gray in the vents, then you have the blue and the red. It's a very simple design, but I think it's aesthetically effective, right? Now, once again, the shield is stupid. I think the shield is the thing I individually dislike the most about this. Add some color on the head once again, and that's it. I think this is effective. Now, would this be a little bit... would people also complain about this being a little too simple? Probably. Because I do think that as a creator, there is some kind of pressure, regardless whether or not you really cognitively think about it, to not just do the same thing. That little voice is going to be in the back of your mind saying, how are people going to receive this if I do this? So I do think people would have complained about this, but I think this looks better than what they have here. Not terrible, once again, but can be improved. So I think this is an option they could have gone with, but I think, as much of an IRL, maybe kind of cash grab nostalgia hit this would have been, in the Cosmic era, this would make zero sense. Not that this makes that much more sense, but it doesn't follow the Freedom design lineage, but it does kind of keep a consistent idea of, we have a blue on the torso, we have a little bit of red here and here and here. You have the blues on the back. I don't know why they got rid of the color on the head. I think that's out there, but it is what it is. However, if we're going full Freedom inspiration, I think this looks better. I think people would have been really okay with this. I think the changes from design would have been fine. It's a movie. I don't know why you went so hard in redesigning it in the first place, Bandai. But, yeah, I mean, obviously, do the changes I did earlier, get rid of these stupid vents. But I think this looks pretty good. Actually, I think this is really nice. Now, if this is kind of hard to see, I do apologize. I did put it on the model kit. I just think it looks better over there. But yeah, I mean, Is this perfect? Not really, but I think it is better than what we've seen. And I think this is kind of what people have been wanting, was something similar to this, right? The design cues from the Freedom. You take the big main color of the backpack, it follows through the chest. Great. You have the lighter color down here on this. This is kind of your secondary color here. And then your red's your kind of tertiary accent color. And you kind of place that where it needs to go. So, once again, I think there might have been some complaints. It's like, oh, there's recycling the Freedom again. Why is the Strike Freedom not here? Which is also a strange question. But I think this is something like that would have made more sense, in my opinion. Now, if you wanted to go really off the rails and change things, and I think this would have been a really interesting idea, go full Zeta inspired, right? People are already kind of comparing this to a Zeta anyway, just because it transforms. But red feet, blue on the legs, blue on the shoulders if you want to keep that idea, red on the gauntlets with a little bit of blue kind of on the outside, blue, red, yellow on the chest, and then red and black on the backpack. I think this could have been really neat. I think this is a interesting concept. I would have liked to have seen, obviously, if this was a thing that considered making the transformation not super boring and lazy. And I think this actually might be one of the cases, oddly enough, where real-world engineering from like the model kit side of things might have affected how this works, because that transformation looks like it was purpose designed for a high grade. Like, it's not great. But yeah, so I mean, let me know in the comments below what your favorite color scheme that I've got out here, or if you've seen another one. Try to direct us to that if you could. But I think that whatever color scheme you go with, whether it's the Zeta inspired, the kind of Freedom inspired here, the Strike inspired one, or if you just keep the color scheme but make some physical changes to it, I think a little bit of work getting this to maybe kind of flow a little bit better gets a lot more leniency from fans, right? I think the big dumb thrusters here, I think the gauntlets, I think the Freedom wings legitimately, I think that all of this could have been better. But once again, I'm not a professional designer. I don't work for Bandai. The people who do obviously know what they're doing. They're very talented, very skilled. And this might be something that grows on us over time, but I think these changes would have went a long way. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me, guys. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below if you want an Immortal Justice video, because legitimately I think that design's fine and I don't know what I would do with it. But if you want it, I'll try to figure something out. Anyway, thanks for watching. As always, do your best to stay safe and keep on building.